guys, malam. Gue Jermin Prayodo Harjo. Gue akan membuat sebuah vlog yaitu tentang physical motivation, cultural motivation, interpersonal motivation, status and prestige motivation. Gue akan menjelaskan pengertiannya dan gue akan mereview beberapa vlog dari YouTuber dan gue akan memasukkannya nanti. Kali ini gue akan membahas tentang pengertian physical motivation, yaitu motivasi yang bersifat fisik antara lain relaksasi, kesehatan, berpartisipasi dalam kegiatan olahraga. Yang kedua, cultural motivation, yaitu keinginan untuk mengetahui budaya, adat, tradisi, dan bahasa. Yang ketiga adalah interpersonal motivation, yaitu hiburan, petualangan, dan santai. Dan yang terakhir adalah status dan prestige, yaitu untuk status dan gengsi dalam hidup. Kali ini gue akan mereview dari video blog YouTuber tersebut.
Hi there, Steve Kaufman here again, answering some of the questions that you have written on my YouTube account. I apologize for this light on my head shining off my gray hair or white hair, but if I don't put the light on, then it's too dark in here, so hopefully that doesn't disturb you. First question was, what is your motivation to learn new languages? This came from a person in Spain, and another person asked something about why are you learning Ukrainian, I think. And I mean, the motivation can be, anything. Right now, the motivation to learn Polish is because I speak other Slavic languages, or I have learned them and studied them, so I'm curious to see how Polish works. And of course, every time you learn a language, you learn so much about the country. So, and people ask me about what about Arabic or Hebrew, and yes, I'm motivated to learn those, particularly Arabic, because there's so much history behind that language, and because so many people in the world speak it. So, a lot of my motivation is cultural interest in the country, and I want to learn about different people, different cultures in different parts of the world. The next question was, how do you keep a language fresh in your mind? How do you not lose vocabulary? In my experience, if I learn a language through massive listening and reading, massive exposure to the language, I tend not to lose it. But the way I refresh it is that I just do more of the same, listening and reading. So, and now that I have Link, it's particularly good. So I can go in and do some Chinese, for example, and in fact, I think the person who asked this question was afraid that they were losing their Chinese vocabulary. So I'll go through and maybe find something on the internet, or I might just get an audio book and find the ebook and bring it in and listen and then read and save words that I need. And I find that very quickly refreshes my grasp of that language. The next question was, how do you study grammar? And someone specifically asked about all of the, der, dem, dies, whatever, die in German. How do I study it? Well, historically what I did was I would do a lot of listening and reading and occasionally refer to grammar explanations in the hope that helped me notice it and therefore get used to it. Now I'm kind of interested in this whole approach that I've mentioned before, Pilter's 100 Stories, where he tells the same story and then asks so many different questions that you are in fact reviewing the different structures using very limited vocabulary, covering the same ground over and over again with different questions and different answers. And that may just be more efficient than trying to remember tables, which I've always found very difficult to do. Another person asks, how do you find stuff to write about? It's difficult. If you're in a school or in a classroom, you are assigned writing. If you have to motivate yourself to write, it's more difficult. What you can try doing is something that Luca does. Luca, who's a very accomplished polyglot, and he translates from the target language into his own language and then back into the target language. So if you grab a sentence of something you're reading, translate it back into your own language, and then try to write it again in the target language. Another person asked, polyglots, they claim to speak many languages, but how many languages can they really speak well? Well, if you listen to Richard Simcott or Luca, to name two specifically, I would say they speak extremely well in at least half a dozen languages. In my own case, certainly it's true that my strongest 3 or 4 are stronger. The next 3 are okay, and then as you work your way down, then I don't speak them so well. And I think inevitably anyone who is a polyglot is going to have a handful of languages that they speak very well, another handful that they speak okay, and others that they don't speak so well. However, it's possible that there are polyglots out there who have, who devote more time to it and who can actually maintain a high level in more than a handful of languages. Question I get all the time is, how do you spend your time? How much time do you spend? I would say I'm down here in Palm Springs now. We're down here because my wife likes to play golf. I prefer to play hockey in the winter. If it were me, I would be still up in Vancouver. So we play golf most days, and then there's other chores and stuff. But I think I put in an hour or 2 a day with my language. A good hour of that is listening. I recently had to go to 3 stores to buy stuff. I went to Home Depot, and then I went to Walmart. I went to Target buying different things for the house here. And the whole time I'm in the car, I'm listening. I also sat down with my iPad and did some of Piotr's stories for a good half hour. I also, in the evening, will sometimes go through my Polish history, creating links. When I do the dishes and clean up, I'm listening. So I think I get in an hour to 2 hours a day, and that's how I manage to do it, by combining it with other activities. Am I interested in Dutch? Sure, we have Dutch at Link, but the difficulty is I'm interested in Dutch, I'm interested in Arabic, I'm interested in Turkish. I can only do one at a time, so one day maybe. I have done some lessons of Dutch at Link, and it doesn't strike me as being very difficult. Question was, what do you find difficult with Korean? I've gone over this before. The difficulty is finding, interesting content that's not too difficult. A lot of words, when you look up the dictionary, the online dictionary, it seems that a lot of words mean the same thing. It's of course it's written in Hangul, so it's not written in a Latin alphabet. It makes it always a little more difficult when you're reading in a alphabet or a writing system that you haven't been using all your life. So those are some of the things. I don't know really why. I have just found Korean to be difficult, but I am continuing. Another question here was, a person studying Chinese, should I learn to write from the beginning? And absolutely, especially the hiragana, katakana. And I recommend for Asian languages to learn to write the characters if they have characters. And finally, there was a question on how do I develop my academic English, or my ability to write in an academic way. And to me, there's no difference between, say, English, business English, academic English, any other kind of English. You have to go and find content, interesting content, on the kinds of subjects that you want to develop an ability to write and speak in. So, academic English, if your field is medicine or chemistry or physics, you go find on the internet or whatever source you have content, ideally both audio and text if you can find it, and you just read lots of that. And I would recommend doing it at Link, where you can save key phrases, the kind of phrasing that people in your field are using, and you just acquire the vocabulary and the phrasing of people in that field. And there's nothing special about academic English versus business English or any other kind of specialized jargon and specialized terminology. You just have to acquire it and make it part of your, first of all, vocabulary that you understand, and ultimately vocabulary that you can use. So there you have it. I apologize for the light. One thing I am going to talk about in my next video is Mark Zuckerberg, who made a 20-minute presentation in Chinese in Beijing. I was quite impressed, and I'm going to give him some suggestions on what he could do to be even better, but that'll be in the next video. So thank you for listening. Bye for now.
Sekian dari video vlog yang gua review. Terima kasih.